Reminder to our listeners that today's episode of Puck Pursuit is presented by Powerade Ultra, which has 25% more electrolytes than original Powerade. All right, Ken, we've waited long enough to dig into this proper. The elephant in the room with this team, the goaltending. Mike Smith, heading into tonight, has started 4 of the last 5 games. Is he the number one going into the playoffs, at least at this point in time? Things can change. There's a few weeks here, but has he been given the reins? It's been a bit of a back and forth.
The truth is, I don't know anyone who does know, and I'm not even convinced the coaching staff knows, because it has been a back and forth all season. The first 3 months, Smith came in as a starter, struggled incredibly. He was easily one of the worst 3 goaltenders through the first half of the season, I would say. But Riddick came out and was a world beater. He had just great numbers. And then the polarity kind of reversed in the second half of the season. Smith kind of started figuring things out. He stopped having terrible blow-up games. And then Riddick kind of fell off the pace. So now the coach is just kind of running with a hot hand here and there and seeing what works. Now, recently Riddick was actually sick, which is why Smith has played so many games in a row. But Smith also hasn't played too badly. His worst game recently was against Minnesota on Jerome McGinley's Jersey night. But aside from that, he's been fairly steady and, not at all bad. So I think the coaching staff is just going to play it by ear for the rest of the year and, go with their gut on game 1.
Yeah, that's a bold move, but considering the season and when you look at the box scores, who's been in net, who's come in to relieve, it's a really weird situation for a team that has so many points in the standings and is expected to contend for the cup. It's interesting too because Mike Smith comes from an era where they used to overwork the goalies. He has 3 seasons of 60+ games. When he was with Arizona, they really drove him hard. So I wonder if this season, weirdly, is actually the silver lining might be that between him and Riddick, there might be a little bit of extra energy, a little jump in their step compared to guys like, I don't know, Frederik Andersen. There's always a topic about him in Toronto about how he's feeling and is he being overused, etc. That's a big thing in the NHL these days, load management. I wonder if weirdly there's actually a benefit to what's happened in Calgary if they do eventually land on a number one. That number one will be relatively rested and ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whoever does get the starter's role in the playoffs is going to be pretty fresh because neither guy has played all that much. And ironically, I believe this is the first time in Calgary Flames history that both goalies have more than 20 wins in a season. So it's been very strange. I actually went into the year and predicted Treliving would be forced to make a trade halfway through the year to rectify the situation, just because Riddick was an unknown, and I don't think betting a season on a 36-year-old goaltender unless he's been a Dominic Hasek through his career is a good move. But Riddick's kind of turned through the first half, stayed their hand, and then once they got to the trade deadline and Smith was playing a little better, they didn't want to go out and spend a bunch of assets on a goalie that probably wasn't going to be a big upgrade anyway. So they're stuck with what they have. They're going to have to hope for the best, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Mike Smith's always a mystery when you're watching him play. I mean, he's obviously goes out of his net a lot to play the puck, which is good and bad depending on the night. It seems like pucks always get lost in his equipment, which is a little weird. Or he lets off a big rebound. There's always seems to be a gray zone with him. You don't really know what's going to happen. From what you gather, how's Smith's readiness mentally, physically for the playoffs? Just because, like I said, he's a veteran. He's been around. There's a lot of miles on him, and this season hasn't been perfectly linear. What's your feeling? Because like we led off this conversation, at least at this point in time, it seems like he might be the guy.
Yeah, the thing with Mike Smith, and you can actually look back at his career to see this, but he's very much an all-or-nothing goaltender. He can come in and, stop everything. Or he can come in and just blow up, just give up 2 or 3 bad goals, give away a puck behind the net, have that end up in the net. And you can see that kind of oscillate throughout his career. He'll have one year where he's well below average, and then another year where he's well above average. And we've been seeing that sort of game to game and week to week with him this year. So Smith's problem, is that he's not a great technical goaltender. He's very competitive. He was very athletic. I think he is still very athletic, although he's 36 and time's starting to catch up to him a little bit. But when he's struggling and when he's down on himself, he plays way too deep in the net. He second guesses himself. He overplays pucks, and it becomes a big problem. But when he's on, being competitive and being a battler is good. So you really just, if you're a Flames fan or if you're a coach, you really just have to hope you get the good Smith when he goes in the net and on the bench.